Well, good evening. Good evening and welcome back to the Spirit of Watercolor with Linda. So, we're going to start something new, a new inspiration, a new way to get our watercolors going and flowing beautifully in the most, a new way to create spiritual effects, I want to say, or ethereal effects. We've been doing colors in the last two videos and how colors affect emotions. But I also think that sometimes textures and patterns that repeat can create beautiful effects and feelings as well. A long time ago, I kind of designed my own class when I was teaching on a different kind of collaging of watercolors. It's not your typical papers that you put together and, you know, from the newspapers or felt or all these different materials. It's just using Japanese papers, lace papers, which are sometimes colored, sometimes just white or natural. Sometimes they have little flecks in them. So what I did was I designed a little book, and I'll zoom in on this, but there are different kinds of papers. Some are called Unru, U-N-Y-R-U papers, and sometimes they're very thin and transparent. Sometimes they're thicker, but then they have these little gold lacy like strings in them, or little like shapes, little squares and little shapes in there, flecks of gold or silver, and they're textury and bumpy and beautiful. Sometimes, like, I want to say, some of these to me remind me of the color of like a stone or rock or something here. That one on the bottom there. So those papers are beautiful. And I made this little book, you know, there's some that have, here's some with the gold fleck in it, okay. And this goes on and on. I mean, they come in colors. Some are lacy, like this one here. And I have a couple favorites I want to show you, and I'll show you a painting I did. And then we will try one. We will make a smaller painting together using some of these papers. You basically use adhesive like glue and water 50-50, and you put it together and you attach them to your paper, and then you can paint into them, or you can paint under them and then attach them. So there's just all kinds of lovely little paper swatches, kind of like our paint swatches, right? And you can get these at Hollander's, which is a paper store here. It was here in Ann Arbor. Then I think there's an office now in Ypsilanti, Michigan, also Michigan. And anyway, you can order all these different kinds of papers. I'll just show you another one of. I tend to go again with these less colored papers so I can paint into them after they're put on the paper. You can use these beautiful colors like this cover, because they did book covers there too. So I want to show you some of the papers. I think it goes on and on like that, you know, just different patterns on some of these. But they're general random patterns that I really like. If they get too patterny, like a checkerboard or a grid, you can use those for different things. That's just you know, not what I typically did with these when I was painting with these. I'll show you what I did. So one of my favorite papers is called Ogura paper. Let me see if I can find that one in here, or a sample of it. I've got my bin of papers. They're kind of a crazy folded up mess because it's been a while since I've used them. Let me just see. Here's one that's got more of a, it's almost like a just a more, it's a patterny one here, a little more opaque. Some of these are much more transparent, okay. Here's a lacy one too. Some of them actually just look like they have paint on them. Very lacy, kind of like little fans in this one. These ones you know, they're still around because I really didn't use them up. I don't know, maybe they were too patterny for me, but maybe you would like them and have ideas how to use them. This one was really transparent. This kind of tear it up and glue it into my papers. Very transparent with lots of gold. It kind of lines going across all the way through, and I love to use this like flowing water. And yeah, I've got some of that Ogura paper that I love so much.
Online, you can see these lace papers that I was talking about, Japanese lace papers. This is Ogura. It has a very more organic pattern, which is what I like. It's random, it's just lacy and loose. You can use that in a lot of different ways, which I'll show you, even in like trees. And then I'm gonna probably, if I don't have enough of that, I'm gonna order more. It comes in colors, as you can see if I pull back. And then they have some that have a grid pattern. They have some that have, there's one that's got daisies, and I think I'm gonna order that one.
Also, let me see if I can show you this painting from here. It might be a little challenging. I'll have to pull way back. And I used a lot of different papers in this, okay? So it's really big. And here's the Ogura papers up in here, over here. The Unru papers are down in here. Some of those have the speckles of light I used in the sky for stars. So it's kind of my icy cool. This is one of those paintings where blue and pink is the cool mood, you know, a soft, cooling kind of, I want to call it an abstract because it's kind of a landscape. You could call it that. Kind of like ice dripping down, but it's all textured papers. So I'm hoping you can see and get the gist of that. I'll pull it back so you can kind of see it. And so that's what I want to do, except way not that big. Okay, so that was something I used, and my daughter actually had it in her room for many years. Then she moved out into her own home, apartment, and she's got other paintings of mine, and not that one. So what I'd like to do is take smaller pad, okay? Something more like a good arches pad like this, okay? And we're talking 10 by 14, I think, or 9 by 12. Something like that. So smaller. And then we will attach some of these papers with half glue and water, and I'll show you that in very soon. So let's get to the table, and we will begin a painting where we use our Ogura and Unru Japanese papers. I'm very excited. So if you like this, like and subscribe and stay tuned, and let's experiment together. You can order these from Hollanders online. And there are other paper stores that carry them too. And Cheap Joe's also has them, by the way. I just saw that. And so I was going to make an order, and then I thought I better go down and see what's in my bin. There's a lot still left to use here. So before I do an order, I want to kind of get back in the groove with you. So please join me. I'll see you here in just a few minutes. Let's get this stretch tape down and off we go. Okay.
Okay, so here I have, again, this paper, and it's Arches, nice paper, 140 pound, and some of that really transparent paper. And remember, I mentioned it's kind of flowing like water for me, so I often have applied it in for sort of a watery effect. Then we take our water and our glue. It can be, just a certain percentage. I want to say, I closed that. Probably 50-50 is best. I probably put too much water in there, but you don't want it to be just glue. It has to be watered down. And we need a craft brush, nothing too beloved, because it's kind of hard on the brushes. So I take my Cheap Joe's brushes. I keep knocking that down. That's okay. And then we're going to bring in, and adhere the paper. Okay. So that's, basically what we're doing. So I'm just, I'm going to try to make a nice even horizon line here. I could have drawn that. Maybe that's better to do, right? Let's do that before we put this on. Get a pencil and something that would be nice and long, and a book or something. That's all right. The job worth doing is worth doing right. So let's get that pretty straight, and then let's start to lay in for our paper here. We want the glue to water, and it will adhere to that. And you can use the different kinds of paper for different effects. Okay, I like how this kind of sparkles like water. And I just keep bringing that across over the top. You'll see that my wrinkled paper smooths out after it's been wetted enough. And I can shape this any way I like, you know. I can make it so it's part of the land up above, like maybe a mountain up here. You know, I'm kind of painting with the fabric, if you know what I mean. And getting that to adhere down. I'm gonna have to add a little more glue, I think. Maybe. Let's see. Yeah. And then just keep going till it's all kind of glued on with water and glue. And if you want it to be totally spread out, like, you know, totally transparent, you can. And we're gonna, you know, paint some blue into that for water, if that's what it turns out to be. If it turns out to be some kind of land instead, then you can use whatever colors you want. Okay, but we're going to am I going to keep that on there? Yeah, just glue it on. And just getting that glue to water ratio. And then it's a little thicker here, and I can fold it over if I'd like, just to kind of create sort of a it'll maybe land up there. It's your painting. You know, it's going to be a painting. It's going to be a sort of a collage. I don't know if I want to call these collage. I did a class called Collage and Watercolor with this, and it did very well. People enjoyed it very much, but I'm not sure, you know, if I would really call this collage, because it is, but it's not your typical, you know, let's put all these things on like when we were in elementary school, and those are wonderful too, don't get me wrong, but this is just a more painterly way, and you know, you have a lot more to say and to be involved with these papers, you know, to mold them into something. They're not already making a statement on their own, if you will. So yeah, you can buy Elmer's glue, like it's like spray glue, I believe. And some people, and I did use that before, I actually glued sand into a painting once when I was on the beach, and it looked really cool, so I just took glue and water, the same as this, and it did very well. So, and of course, this is Elmer's glue, good old-fashioned. And let's straighten this out a little more here, and I can. You just keep going until you are pretty sure it's on there the way you want it. I wanted to try a little bit now of this Ogura paper. Remember, I've told you how this has got this spongy random look to it, and this is the natural color. It's not white. I'm going to actually attempt to tear some of this and maybe form some kinds of like trees with it. I think that's just what I wanted to see if it would do. Something said to me today, can you make trees out of this? So we'll see. Okay, I don't know how torn I want it to be to create them, but I think it could do something that way. I think we can make some trees. So again, we're just learning as we go, relearning, and seeing what can I make with these. Can I make some kind of interesting tree type shape forms here? And, you know, this is like saran wrap where you just kind of rip and form the shapes as much as you can. See, now that I... So I put in some trunks with my Aquarel water-soluble pencil, which I will see that might make an effect when that's drying. Also, I'm not sure where that trunk is yet, so I kind of got it marked in two places, and I'll know better in a minute. But I've got masking fluid here that I spattered with my toothbrush. Let me just show you that real quick. Here it is. So I took the brush, dipped it in my masking fluid bottle, just right in there, and then I just took it and put my thumb across and spattered, and I actually just did it for fun. This is an abstract watercolor, so I'm not, you know, even though I've got stars up there and maybe they're reflecting down here, and then there were some big splotches of, and I like it. I don't know, maybe they'll come off and maybe they won't. But again, I was just sponging in some darker green into my trees and let that spread in. It adds a little more dimension, and the kind of goes with the color here a little more now. So, letting that just flow here. I think we'll bring in sort of something to kind of show those stars showing. And so I let that dry for a while, and I'll straighten it up. And so we're going to bring in some color into the stars, maybe a little more into the foreground here. The trees have dried a little lighter than they started off, and we can add more rich color in there if we wish. But I'm thinking that I was going to make this sort of become a little bit of a sundown, sunset type thing. So I'm just going to kind of come over this and, you know, bring it into maybe the sunset here, which also kind of faded, and I can bring that back out too. So we're going to do a wash of water here. I'm going to come in with some washes of color. I'm hoping that's not too... Let me bring this down just a little so I don't end up in the picture. And then I've been trying to come up with some colors that would be really beautiful in there. And I don't want them to fight too much with the colors I have in here. I want them to kind of flow with that if possible. So I do want to bring a little carbozzle in so that my stars will kind of show up here, okay? And we're going to see some beautiful blue, and hopefully not my head come into play here. in and out of those trees a little too, right? Okay. And then bring that through. And it's very wet, so it should flow pretty nicely for us. And we'll get a little bit of some evening sky, a little bit of that going on. Okay. And we're playing with our trees a little here. My dryer's making a noise. I turned it off for a minute, but it's still... Yeah. So yeah, ooh. I think I like the effect, except it didn't quite make it over there, did it? Okay, so... I want this to kind of be a beautiful, beautiful starry effect from those stars up there. Letting that kind of flow softly. Arches paper really is nice. I wasn't a fan for a while of it, but I'm kind of becoming. Just bring a little bit into the tree of the purple just to kind of be behind the tree a little. Drama. Sometimes just watching that flow is just something I love doing. I think I'll take a tissue now and kind of decide where we